Welcome everyone to the Elevating Your Potential podcast, where we enlighten middle school and high school student athletes about the realities of college sports. We have a great show for you today. We have one of my friends that we've met maybe going on 7-8 years now, playing college football together, but he's currently a coach. I want him to come on because he has a lot of different experiences coaching high school, college, different college levels. And so I think his insight for the podcast would be great. His name is Coach Guinyard. How you doing?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Can you start out by telling the audience a little bit about yourself and your journey and what you're currently doing now?
For those of you who don't know me, my journey's been kind of rough, so to speak. I'm not going to go through every little point, but just the main ones that made me, who I am and shaped me to who I am today. I'm from California, born there. I, raised in Texas. I moved to Ennis, Texas when I started getting into sports. In high school, I was one of the, top recruited athletes coming out. I had, over 20 or so, some close to like that scholarship offers, potential offers, and things like that. I tore my ACL my senior year, and I lost a bunch of offers, lost a bunch of interest and offers, and ended up having a few there. Want to stay close to home, so I took a visit to SMU, who, one of the few who stayed on board after I tore my ACL. I loved it there. Committed after my visit. I got to SMU, tore my ACL again. And after a long career of injuries, I had 4 total knee surgeries, battled through that. Then I got medically disqualified from that, which means, if you don't know what that means, it's the doctor basically said, you're cleared from your surgery to run and do things, but I'm not clearing you to actually play football. Right. Because if you get hurt again, get another knee surgery, then you may not be able to to walk, or you may need a knee replacement. If you get one this young, it's just gonna be detrimental to your future. So I was like, you know what, football's not, football is what got me here. It's what I love to do, but it's not worth not being able to walk when I get older. Right. So, I just went to school. SMU blessed me and let me just keep my scholarship and just finish out school, which I did that. Started coaching and I got a regular job after that, and after I graduated at SMU, and then started coaching.
Yeah, for sure. So can you give us some of the places you coached?
Yeah, for sure. So I coached so when like I said, I graduated and went to a desk job. I coached with one of my high school coaches, which was my head coach. If you don't know, his name is Sam Harrell. If you don't know his story, it's probably something you should Google or YouTube. You just type in Sam Harrell, MS, and his story is crazy. But he ended up going to SAGU, which is a college, private Christian school. And so I got in contact with him around the time he was going there. He offered me to coach his receivers, so I went there to coach the receivers. Stayed there for a little bit. He left after a season. I stayed one more season without him. From there, I was a receivers coach, and then I was moved to the passing game coordinator and the receivers coach. Stayed there for another year and a half, and then left. Ended up getting the opportunity to go to Missouri Valley. And now, if you don't know Missouri Valley, that's SAGU. They're on completely opposite sides of the spectrum. It's a private Christian school to a secular school. So I coached there, stayed there for a season. And it was just Missouri. There's nothing bad about Missouri. It's just, it wasn't me, I was raised in Texas. I'm a Texas football type guy. It's what I do, it's what I love. So I had an opportunity to come to CDA, which is Corndale Academy. It's a TAP school here in Flower Mound. Got that opportunity to be the offensive coordinator here, and I jumped on it. Now I'm back in Texas, and we just finished our first season.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Your story is interesting. So before we get into your coaching aspect, you kind of intrigued me with what you're saying. Can you walk me through your mindset as you had injury after injury, and what kind of toll did that take on you, and how did you overcome that?
So yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a toll on your body. Like on your body, mentally, physically, all the above. When I tore my ACL my senior year, I didn't know it was torn. I was on the sideline. I was like, I'm fine. Like, I can play. Let me continue to play. But, the doctors and the trainers were like, look, we haven't started district yet. Just sit out. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll sit out. Like it's more important for the district game. So who cares what happens in this game?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out the next day I found out my ACL's torn. And at the time I didn't know, but now I do, obviously. But that was my last play, my last play ever of football. And I mean, if I can go back, obviously I'd finish the game out, but I didn't know. So after I figured I was torn, I had to call all the schools that were offering me / were interested in me. And what hurt the most is, I get it's a business. This is like the rude awakening of the business part of this, of being a student athlete. Is most of the coaches were like, look, we want a guy who's going to come in and play, and not a guy who's going to have to come in and redshirt because of an injury. So they were like, we're sadly going to take the offer off the table and go get this other guy. Because a lot of schools were saying, we rather have a good receiver who can play now than a great receiver who's going to have to sit out a year for injury. So, that was, a hard pill to swallow, because, the whole time they hyping you up like, oh, we want you, they text you every day, they talk to you all the time. You're like, okay, yeah, cool. And then as soon as, something happens, they stop talking to you. And, you get an injury, they stop talking to you. And it's just a business. You want to hold grudges and you want to say, well, I don't like that school or that person because of that. But I mean, now being on the coaching side, it's a business. Like they have to think about their family just like you're thinking about, your life and your family. Yeah. So I don't hold any grudges about any of that stuff. So, it's just like one of them things. It's a midstream adjust. I have to change, where I thought I was going to go, or, the path I was going to take, and go a different direction.
Yeah.
I got to SMU, tore my ACL again, like I said. And I mean, after the second one, I was like, there's no way that I can do the rehab and that process again. I was like, there's no way. I'm not gonna get too much into why I did. I had a dream. I'll touch on it briefly. I had a dream about someone, one of my dear family members who passed away, who was a part of my dream, telling me, just finish, keep going, you can do it. So I took that as a sign, and he's my guardian angel. Like, I'm gonna finish. So I strapped up my boots and went through the rehab again, and went through the process, finished, got hurt again. And then after that time, it was the same things going in my head. Like, there's no way I can get, it was hard getting through one. I made it through two. Like, can I actually get through a third one? And I did. I had the same exact dream about my guardian angel.
Wow.
He told me the same thing, like, you can do it. Just keep going. It's going to be worth it. And so I did it again. After the fourth one, it was like, okay, what's going to happen? After the last one, it was like, can I even still play? Once they told me, I was attacking rehab so hard after the fourth one. I was like, I told myself, I'm not stopping. Halfway through rehab, they're like, well, we're not going to let you play anymore. Like, you're getting close to being ready to play, but we don't want to get your hopes up. So we're going to let you know now that we're not clearing you to play. And they also said, well, you can go to another school and transfer and try to play there or see what their team doctor says. But if their team doctor asks us, we're not going to lie and say that you should play. We're going to tell the truth that you shouldn't be playing. You have all these injuries. So I just, that's why I just ultimately decided to stay there.
Got you. Man, I definitely appreciate you. I didn't know that story. And we were with each other probably 2 or 3 years. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think a lot of student athletes will get a lot from it as well, like overcoming adversity, continue to push through. And ultimately, I haven't heard me scream just in years, so you kind of took me back there for a second.
They say, when you start talking to other SMU alumni, you start hearing things like that. They speak the same language, man.
And so, you personally, what made you decide to start coaching ultimately?
Okay. So I was coaching, or I graduated, and I went to work in an office job. It was called Mortgage Contracting Services. It's in Plano, and it was a good job. You can get good paying money, and you can move up. It's one of them jobs you can move up quickly as long as you're doing what you have to do. Um, but it got to a point where I would wake up on Sundays and like I'm not getting out of bed because I was dreading going to work on Monday. I would go, or I'll dread during the week, like, dang, I gotta go to work. And it was just, I was always one of those guys growing up, um, and God bless my parents. They did everything they can, to make me not like want for something. But obviously I didn't grow up, having everything I needed. So in my head, I was like, okay, look, I'm gonna graduate college. I'm gonna do it by the book. I'm gonna graduate college, and I'm gonna do whatever's paying me the most money.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I want to do. I'm whatever's the most money, and then that's what I was doing. And then I quickly realized that it's not about which job is paying you the most money. It's about what you like to do, what you love to do. If you wake up every morning loving your job, it makes it that much easier. It makes it easy to show up and to perform and to want to be there. That's when I got in contact with my old high school head coach, who was at Sam Hill, who was at a
Mm-hmm.
college at SAGU. He let me coach his receivers, and I'm thankful for him for giving me the first taste of what I actually want to do with my life.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So piggybacking off that, you were like you said, you were a beast coming out of high school. I knew I was in Red Oak, you weren't in it, so I knew you all the way from Red Oak. And what do you wish, like thinking back, what do you know now as a coach that you wish you knew as a student athlete that you think could have helped you, like have a different mentality or mindset?
Yeah. So I've always had this question. There's so many different directions we can take this question. So I'm gonna touch on one of them. So I never knew, like growing up, I was hard, I always thought, okay, you gotta work hard to get what you want. You got, in the weight room, do this and do all the major parts of football. But what I wish I knew now as being a coach on the other side of it, I wish I knew, how important, or I knew, but I wish I realized how important, the details of the game are to the success of the team. It got to a point where you're doing all the things like, okay, you're working so hard on catching footballs, you catch on jugs, you stay after the catch footballs, you're running routes, you're lifting weights, and you do all those good, but you haven't really mastered, receiver, so to speak. You haven't really mastered being a receiver until you got into the details of all of that technique, alignment, assignment.
Mm-hmm.
All those things are more important than you think. Because being on the player side, he's like, yeah, I hear the coaches saying that, but I have to be a better catcher. I got to jump higher, run faster. As a coach on the coaching side, or as being an offensive coordinator, you see it as, because I see in my head when I call a play or I'm watching something on Friday nights, where it's like, okay, I see the defense doing this. This is what we need to do to combat that. So we're playing. It's almost, it's a game. We're playing
Right.
chess. We're not playing checkers. So I'm trying to get steps ahead. So in my head, I see everybody doing it right. But if one or two guys aren't doing their job, or not using the technique, or they're not aligned right, or they don't get their assignment right, that the whole play is messed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's in some offenses, in some offenses they're not messed up, but in the offense we run, everybody has a job, and everybody's job has to get done. If everyone does their job, it works out perfectly.
Yeah.
So um, if you can somehow get all 11 guys on your side of the ball to just to do their specific jobs, and not worry about too much, not worry about, okay, we're losing, I have to make three guys miss and go score a touchdown, or we're losing, I have to get open. No, if everyone does your specific job and you still lose, then there's nothing you can do about it. You're
Right.
just like my high school coach says, you just beat at birth. They're just better than you, and you can't do anything about that. But if you do your job, and you'll start seeing that stuff starts moving. It flows better. You start winning more games, start scoring points. It's just, you got to get everyone to buy into doing
Yeah.
their job.
Yeah, man, that's real good. That's good. So you had the unique opportunity to coach on the collegiate level and on the high school level. So let's talk about college first. What was that
Mhm.
experience like for you? Yeah, what was your experience? What was that experience like for you?
Well, college. So, like I said, being at SAGU and being at Missouri Valley are opposite sides of the spectrum. It's like SAGU, um, and I really I owe my career, my coaching career to SAGU. Like I said, it's an uncommon experience being there. And what I mean by that is, when you go there, they preach so much. I mean, obviously you want to win. Every coach wants to win, but it's more of, are you growing? Are you growing as a person, as a coach, as a dad, as a brother? Those type things is the main thing that they're trying to push. So we develop what we say 3D men, which is, physically prepared, mentally engaged, and spiritually led.
Mm.
So to be a 3D man, like, it's okay. Some guys are spiritually led and mentally engaged in the classroom, but they're not physically prepared. They don't work hard in the weight room, or and then you have some guys who are, the other ones, like, oh, I'm strong, I'm physically prepared, I work hard, but I also, in the class, I do my stuff in class, I got good grades. Okay, you got those two, but are you physically, are you spiritually led? So you can't be in our mind at SAGU, you can't be a 3D man, you can't be a man, a whole man. You're not gonna your growth hasn't reached its potential until you're the 3D man. So that, and I was preaching that while I was there. So that helped me as a coach grow. Being a young coach, first time, it's important. I didn't know it at the time, but now, after I've been a few other places, now I know that how important it is, like how your character matters, integrity matters. Those things that you don't think about, those things matter. And that's what I owe SAGU, because they taught me that. Like, I've never been like a bad guy. Like, I've never thought I was a bad guy, or I wasn't like this crazy sinner. But I didn't know how. It helped me get closer in my faith and my walk with faith, and then at the same time, my character and my integrity, all those things that they preach, it rose to a new level to help me actually get to where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's one side of the college experience, and the other side of the college experience was going to Missouri Valley. Now that's an actual, it's a secular school, and there was no like chapel or anything like at SAGU, so that was a different experience, which I also enjoyed, because now I went from there to, like, okay, your character, all these things matter. Be a 3D player, man, and then I go to a different school to where, okay, now I'm with kids who we're not looking for a 3D guy, so to speak. We're looking for athletes, but which helped me is now I got my athletes, and I got my physically paired guys, and I got my mentally engaged guys. Now it's up to me to get them, spiritually led. So that was, a thing for me to, I can take one thing from there and I can implement it somewhere else where I was.
Yeah.
And it helped me get my room together. It helped me my guys be as one. It helped them, like, know that there's somebody on their side. Like, okay, you can talk to me about the football stuff, but also let's grow together spiritually. And that's another thing with a lot of the people I met at college, in the college realm of coaching. They showed me those things. They showed me, how to walk with my faith, and not, and do those things with the younger guys, and bring them up, and teach them the way, because that's the way I was taught when I first started coaching.
Yeah, yeah. And so, continuing on along that same line, how did that impact your recruiting? So, when you were at these different places, like, did you have to recruit differently? And I'm asking this question because you're in high school now. I'm sure a lot
Yeah,
of your athletes are trying to get recruited.
yeah,
And so,
exactly.
is it the same mindset? Like, as think about when you were a college coach and looking back down at SAGU,
Mhm.
were you looking for people who are already 3D men, or are you looking for two of those areas in uplifting? And then, like, how did that
Right.
contrast from what you're looking for in Missouri Valley?
Right. So yeah, like you said, at SAGU, the recruiting side of it, you're looking for a specific player, right? You gotta look for. It's not recruiting like you recruit at D1 at some D1s where okay, you're good, you can run fast, and you're strong or you're tall or whatever it is. Okay, yeah, we're interested. Okay, and then the interest goes to okay now. Um, we look at that now. What do your grades look like? Okay, that even if you don't have great grades, if you have okay grades, but your skill level is up here, now they're like, okay, we can look past that.
Right.
Okay, now let's look at your background and other things like that. Coming from Sagu, it's like, okay, what type of guy are you? You know, what is your family? Does your family go to church? You know, so you almost sometimes look at that stuff first because you may not even get accepted to school. So like why even look for a guy or why waste your time on a guy that may not even like the spiritually led part of your school? Because like I said, we had chapel 5 days a week. So you kind of look for those guys who, okay, yeah, you're spiritually led. Okay, now we go to your skill. Okay, you're here. Okay, now it's your skill. Okay, your skill's pretty good, or maybe it's not. If it's not, we can look. We're the school. Sometimes we look past that, past your skill because you're mentally engaged and you're spiritually led. Hopefully, we can teach you football. You know,
Yep.
you're not a bad player, but we can grow you in the football area. That's our
For
job
sure.
as coaches. So, and you never want to work backwards because if you find the best athletes you can, normally, and it's not with everybody, but at Sagu, you find those kids, you find the best athlete, and then now they don't fit your school. So it never works. Now he ends up leaving or gets in trouble or he's just not buying in just because I don't want to go to chapel type thing. Now he's just something you don't want. You have to deal with that for 4 years when you could have just found a guy who fits your program.
Got you.
And then, like I said, going to Missouri Valley, now we're recruiting for more of a numbers type thing. It's a numbers game. So now we could care less how spiritually led you are. Um, we want the best athlete. We want, what does your stats look like? How many yards did you catch or did you receive? How many passing yards did you have? How many tackles did you have? Okay, and now that excites us. Okay, now we can go from there and figure out what type of scholarship you're going to get. So those things that the recruiting tactics, like this staff that I hear in this high school that I'm at CDA, where the head coach he was with me at Sagu for a little bit. He was the special teams coordinator there. His name's Sean Riley, and he's here now at CDA. So he has a college background. Obviously, I have the college background. A couple other coaches have a college background that college coaching. So this staff knows the process, right? We've been there, done that. When this staff before we got here, there was no offers. None of the players on the team had an offer at all. Not even our Power 5 guy had an offer. He had interest and things like that. And then we get here, and now we have I think over 40 total offers
Oh
out
wow.
in one season.
Wow.
And it's not like we have the secret code to getting people to come in and get offers. We don't have a secret code. We just been there, done that. We've had that background from college, so we know when guys come in or when we're with these high school guys. We know how to get their film out. We know what coaches
Yeah.
are looking for. We know, what type of emails you need to send. What type of guys you need to follow on Facebook. We know realistically where you fit in the recruiting area. There's some guys who, I'm looking at, who's your top 5? Oh, I like Tech, Alabama, Ole Miss. Yeah, but you're not a Tech, Alabama, Ole Miss
Yeah.
athlete. So it's one of them things where we know where you fit, what avenue you fit in, because we've been there, done that. We evaluated talent at that level, so we know what coaches are looking for. So yeah, this is where you would fit. You stay in this area and talk to these coaches and hit these guys up, follow these guys on Twitter. You'll have a better opportunity because this is your area.
Yeah.
They
That's kind of
start.
what. Sorry, my bad.
Go ahead.
But that's why I want to go into that a little bit more because how do you talk to your athletes? Because everyone's stuck on, like you said, D1, Power 5. Some
Yeah,
people might want to go to the next level of
yeah.
like the group of 6 or whatever. But how do you talk to those student athletes who are Sagu, Missouri Valley, who might need to go to junior college? How do you have that discussion with your student athletes now?
Well, you don't. Well, you don't. What you don't do is you don't lie. You don't want to give them false hope. You know, you don't want to say, well, if you keep working hard, I think you can get a D1 offer. We just you got to be straight up with them. A lot of them got coach. You know, one of my receivers asked me at the beginning of the season. He's like, coach, and this is, you know, I didn't even know him at this point. I knew him from Zoom. This was when COVID just hit, and we haven't really met the players in person. When I finally met him in person and I seen him in person, he came up to me and was like, Coach, you think I could play D1? You think I could play at SMU? And I was like, honestly, to be honest, you know, you don't have the size. You know, you're 5'11", 155. I know you got skill, you got talent, but you know, you don't have the size to play there. Do you want to play college ball though? And they'll say, you know, yeah, I want to play college ball. I'm like, okay, well, I can help you get to college. There's over, you know, what, like 800 college teams, so I can find a place for you to play. It may not be D1, but it also may not be. It's not going to be the worst thing. I can get you a place to play. So it's kind of one of them things where you don't sugarcoat it because it's their life, you know. It's what they're gonna go on and do after they leave you, and at the same time you don't wanna try to, because there's so many coaches trying to get your guy, like trying to push your guy into something that he's not built for, you know. And I think that's just detrimental to the kid, and you're setting the kid up for failure, and then you're setting your program up, because if you know he's not SMU material, why would you let him go to SMU or try to push him to go there or whatever, even though, because now they're gonna be like, no, we're not going back to CDA because they sent us this guy and said he was the best, or he was this and that, and he ended up being, you know, nothing. He didn't even help us. So I mean, like I said, integrity is big in the coach. So as long as you're telling them the truth and being real with them, they like that. They like that stuff. I know when I was growing up, I wanted a coach to be real with me. Just tell me the truth. Like, if I'm not getting it done, tell me I'm not getting it done. Don't say, oh, we're going to go with so-and-so this time. You'll get some reps. Like, you know, that type of thing. Just be honest, and they will, you know, if you have their back, then they'll follow you for sure.
For sure. That's great. I love it. And so comparing and contrasting like your time in high school and college, is there a different intensity level from the coach's perspective? I know you might have more time in college, but is it quote unquote harder once you take that step up from high school to any level of college?
Right. Yes. I mean, I say 100%. There's a different vibe. There's a difference in all of it, and I mean, you can take it in so many ways. But as far as, like, for example, being in college, or being in college, you don't have to deal with parents. You know, they're in high school, you're dealing with 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. You know, some of them are, you know, some of them are too young to even, you know, they don't know a lot of things. So if you yell at them and they go back to their parents, now you have to have a meeting with the parents and the school board and things like that. Well, that's the difference. In college, you don't deal with parents. You know, they're young men. You know, they're 22, 23, 24-year-olds sometimes. So you know, being a coach in general, you kind of get in meetings. That's almost what they tell you. They say, okay, now, so at SAGU, SAGU is it's an uncommon experience. So being at SAGU, it was like, okay, yes, like, you got to be that coach, but you can't cuss at them. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do things, you know, you can't do certain things that, you know, well, maybe those are a little similar to high school, so to speak, because you're not doing those things. But then when I went to Missouri Valley, now it's, you know, it's almost like it's way different on the other side of the spectrum. It's like almost like what 90% of other colleges actually do. When I first got there, obviously they know who SAGU is. They're like, okay, don't, you know, you got to come in here with a firm hand. You got to let them know who's boss. Your first meeting, you got to let them know, hey, you know, if someone says something or is doing something, get on to them day one. That way they know that, because these guys they'll almost, you know, if they think that you don't know what you're talking about, it's so hard to to get somebody back on board. If your best player, you go to a new place and your best player, let's say your best receiver. If I go somewhere, if I went to Missouri Valley and my best receiver, was like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or, we can do whatever we want. I talk, I run this and I'm a senior leader. He's a new guy. Like, if he's not on board, then it doesn't work, So now sometimes you have to be intense. You have to be harder on some guys. You got to yell at them sometimes. You gotta, I don't want to say embarrass them, but you almost have to. If something happens, you got to call them out. And then it's different going into high school, because like I said, when I got to high school, you have to know how you can talk to some people. So you may be talking to your senior leader. You can go up to your senior in high school, your senior, and say, hey, that route was terrible. Like, you can do way better than that. Like, that was like, we can't win with that type of effort. But you can't say the same thing to your 14-year-old freshman, who messed up a route, who's just now in high school, just now learning. He's only 14. If I go up to say that to him, like, hey, like, that was terrible, he doesn't know any better. Like, who, he'll almost get in his shell. He won't want to learn. He's not eager to learn. So it's knowing who you can talk to in certain ways, how you can coach them. I think my biggest, when I first started coaching, one of the best, the major advice that someone gave me that I held on to was know who you're talking to, know who you can coach and how you can coach. Some guys may need the hard coaching, and some guys may need you to tell them that, to say, hey, this is how I need to get done. That wasn't right, but let's get you some more reps. You'll get it. Yeah. So it's just finding the right way, and who you can say what to.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. This is super insightful. So I have two more. We hear a lot about mental health now, in life and with student athletes. How do you, as a coach, help a student athlete who is experiencing difficulties getting over those mental health things, whether it be stress, depression, anxiety? How do you help with that as a coach?
So coaches, without even knowing it, they play a big part in that stuff. Sometimes you know it, sometimes you don't know it. But that's part of being in this field. Us being a student athlete is just stressful. Sometimes it's so stressful on a kid that you're asked to be perfect with athletics. You have to juggle athletics, classes. Some people work at the same time, and then also relationships, whether that's friendships or romantic relationships. So being it's overwhelming. It is all these avenues you got and all these titles you have that everyone's asking you to be perfect. Be perfect on the field, do things right, be perfect in the classroom, be perfect in relationship, at your real job. So it's stressful. So I think it's for the most part, as a coach, it sometimes it takes you just saying that someone is good enough, or they got it, or or being on their side, type thing, to take one of those stress factors off. If because I remember growing up playing ball, I was so scared to letting my coach down, or am I doing this the right way? Those type of things. And then sometimes it takes away from football. So not football. Sometimes it takes away from classes. Sometimes it takes away from relationships, because you're so focused on this one thing, or you're stressed about it, and you got to get it right. So it takes a coach to say, like, hey, I see your efforts. I see how hard you're working. It's getting there. Those encouraging things. It helps tremendously. It helped me even then. So there's a story. There's one kid on our team now. There's two kids actually. They're twins, and you may not know this, but if anybody who's from CDA or the Flower Mound area will know, they're the Ledbetters. What you need to know about the Ledbetters is they are the hardest working kids that I've ever been around, right? But for some reason in their head, and they're like you said, mental health. In their head, they think that they're not good enough. Sometimes when they mess up, or we had one of the Ledbetters is our best corner. He's our best DB. We put him on the best player every time. Whoever we're playing, you're guarding that guy. Follow him around, guard him. He'll play good all game, and then if he gives up a touchdown, he drops his head, and because to him he failed his mission. The whole mission's failed because I gave him a touchdown. So with them two guys, they're so like they want everybody, they want to do good for everybody. They don't want to let anybody down. So, and it was cool for me to hear this. So their mom, I actually work with their mom, who's actually on, she works with the grammar school, which is K through fourth, PE and recess, and she teaches a little bit. But I work with her. So she tells me things, behind closed doors and about the boys, and it was cool to hear that. She was telling me that one of the twins, which was Zach, he would they were talking about something, and he finally I forget what the conversation was like specifically about, but it was basically it was like he was like, yeah, I can do that, but he was embodying the I can do it thing, to where, because he was like, oh yeah, I can do that, or like, oh, and then the mom's like, well, since when are you so like not in your head or
Right.
about things? And he was like, well, Coach G always says, you can do it. The first thing is confidence. Like, first thing to completing that is saying you can, because if you got the confidence to do it, then it'll give you that energy or that boost that you need. Because short story, they always ask me, Coach, throw this ball, can you hit that cone over there, or can you hit the crossbar? And I was like, yeah, I can do it. And they always say, Coach, you think you can do everything? And I'm like, because I think I'm not gonna say I can't. The first thing, I don't even think about it. Coach, can you? Yeah, I can do it. Bet I can.
Yeah.
And so they're seeing me, saying those things and doing those things, that it actually rubbed off on him, to where people, he doesn't doubt himself anymore. He's straight just, yeah, I can do that. And his mom asked him why. He was like, because Coach G was saying
Wow.
that. And so without even me knowing, that stuff, it led to me helping with his problem. I say problem, but with him being in his head and thinking he's not good enough, or think he can't do something, or those things.
Yeah.
First thing he thinks about now is, yeah, I could do that, and then figure it out later if you can't.
Yes, sir. Man, that's powerful. That is a powerful story. I think a lot of our student athletes and coaching get a lot from that. So the last question I have, just to wrap up, a lot of times I think there's a disconnect between student athletes and coaches. And so I want, from your perspective, essentially as a coach, what do you want from your student athletes? Like what do you want?
As far as let me, like you said, I can take this in different ways.
Whatever first comes to your mind, take it that way.
Okay. So what I want, so there's things we call here. I mean, I don't know if other coaches don't say it. It's something we say here. It's just because we've embodied this thing where we're trying to develop guys. So we call it, there's coaches who coach for Friday nights, and there's coaches who coach for Saturday nights, and some people think, oh, you're talking about college coaches and high school coaches, but we're not. We're like, no, we're talking about all high school coaches. Some are Friday night coaches, which means they're coaching to win that game, like regardless of what's going on, they want to win that game. Not saying they're not trying to develop, but on the other hand, what we do here is we want to send kids to college. We want to do that. That's our big thing. Coming here is no one had offers. Okay, we're coming here now. A lot of kids have offers. So we're coaching for Saturdays. We're looking to develop guys. That's not saying we don't want to win. Obviously we want to win, but we want to develop guys to their true potential. And it may not even be in football. It may be in your relationship. It may be with your walk with, you're walking your faith with God. It may be in your classes. It may, being a brother or a sister or whatever it is, a friend. So that's our big thing is we're relationally driven, So we want to get the kids to college. So we want So that's almost what we're wanting. We're wanting kids to buy into what we have going. As soon as you buy in, we want to get the kids cars. Okay, that's one of the avenues. Also, like you said, what do you want? Athletically, I know majority of players would want that answer instead. But so as a coach, I think, like I said earlier, it's just getting everyone to buy in to what you're doing. Um, if everyone, like, I can't stress enough, there's so many plays, and I wish I had Huddle pulled up with some tag film, but there's so many plays I can go through film with you, but there's so many plays that we're one guy away from scoring a touchdown. We're one guy away. So if everybody can buy into just doing their job, who cares? Like, if you're losing a game, it can't get any worse. If you're losing by 21, like, what can get worse?
Right.
Don't, it can't get worse. Let's just see what it looks like if you just do your job, play in and play out, do your job, do your job, do your job. You got to stress that, because so many plays, and you may not know this if you're not a coach. You just see, you're looking from the stands, looking in, that, oh, why did they call that play? Or, oh, why are we throwing it deep? Or, where's the rush? Or, different things that fans say, but you don't even know what's going on.
Right.
Or a guy missed, someone gets beat deep, and then the first thing the crowd says, like, oh, number so-and-so sucks because he got beat deep. And it's like, well, you don't even know so-and-so didn't do their job. So, I mean, that's one of the main things as in being a coach, is if you got to get everyone to buy into what you're doing, and do their job. Once everyone gets on board and does their job and not more than what they can do and what's asked for them, then you'll have a pretty good outcome. And if you don't, like I said earlier, you just merely got beat by somebody better than you.
Right. And I think what you're saying is so big because a lot of times, like, as student athletes, we're concerned about our own future and like
Yeah.
where we ultimately want to go. But what you're saying is not counter to that. You're saying
Yeah.
do your job. Like, you have a skill set that we have put you in place to do.
Yeah.
So all we ask you to do is do what we ask you to do,
Yeah.
which is going to help you get to where you're trying to go. And so both of you really have the same, student athletes and coaches have the same goal. We just have to realize and bring it together.
We just have to realize that a coach is never gonna. He's on your side. He's not gonna put you. He's not gonna tell you some stuff that's gonna hurt your performance. Why would he want to hurt your performance? What he's done all the, and I tell my athletes this all the time. I've done all the film watching. I've done all the game planning. I've done all this that you don't even have to do much, but this game plan, here's the sheet, here's the game plan sheet right here.
Right.
You execute this. Like, I've done it all for you. I've done all the thinking. Execute your job on this paper, and we're good to go. And it's just so hard, like, because when in the mix of a game, when the bullets are flying, it's almost like, let's say, being a receiver. Let's say I were running a fade and an out. The fade out concept, mandatory outside release, but the guy's standing outside of you, and you go inside, and then he comes back to the sideline. Like, what happened? Oh, the guy was standing outside, so I went inside because there was no one in there, and I was wide open. It's like, but that's not your job. The quarterback doesn't know. And all he knows is the game plan. The game plan is you got a mandatory outside release this guy to get his eyes around so we can hit the guy behind him,
Yep.
But in your head, you wanted to do more than what's asked of you, because in your head, you're like, oh, it's wide open in here. You gotta shy away from that. You gotta get away from, oh, it's wide open there, so I'm just gonna run inside. And I was wide open. Like, no, like, that's not the game plan.
Right.
We can't guess what you're gonna do. As the quarterback, in my head, you're about to go outside. I got this out. I'm finna hit this out, and we're gonna get, we're getting this first down. But now you go inside. Now he brings the corner's eyes in. Now I'm looking at the out corner. The out's not open. Now, now my reads are off. Now we don't have a play. And now it's just one person not doing their job. You can have all 5 O linemen doing their job, getting their blocks. You have backside receivers running their routes. You can have that slot running his out route. But that one person, now we got to punt the ball, and it's that easy. Something as small as that one little play doing your job can affect, a whole drive.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Coach, this was a great conversation. I appreciate you joining us today.
Oh yeah,
I hope nothing but the best for you moving forward. Praying that next year y'all can have another great season and continue to move forward. For everyone else listening, y'all have a great rest of y'all's week.
sir.